Greetings, Starfighters! Welcome to Season 8 of Shameless Cashgrab. Hallmark Channel Christmas movies, just like I promised. I got the DVD here. Well, DVD set. There's more than one disc in here. Got the Evil Dead 2 Ugly Christmas sweater. And I'm filming all of this on an unusually warm day in October because I very, very badly want to get these movies out on a weekly schedule for this season before going back to the normal of frantically trying to get at least one episode out per month for season 9. That's assuming I even decide to do a season 9, but that's a whole other thing. So our first movie today is called A Magic Christmas. I do not recognize the cast for this or any of these come to think of. Oh no, wait, okay. I know Christina Milian, but that's the third movie of the season, so let's not get into it. Majestic Christmas. I have trouble reading the cast list on the back of these because, wow, the white and orange there is just not working. I think I could have done better, and that's not exactly my field. But, yeah. I think this. I don't really think I need to say anything else, do I? Let's just go ahead and jump into A Majestic Christmas.
Okay. So, I have watched A Majestic Christmas from 2018, the 69th movie I've watched for this show. Pause to let everybody get it out of their system. Okay. Plot summary courtesy of Letterboxd. Christmas in the charming town of Briar Falls will be bittersweet this year when architect Nell goes back to her hometown having been given the job of turning the historic Majestic Playhouse into a modern multiplex, much to the town's objections. The Playhouse has been home to their annual Christmas tableau, which will now have to end after a long and historic tradition to the town. This job is Nell's first promotion and one she wishes she hadn't been chosen for, especially when she meets the new owner of the theater, Connor, whose vision and ideas clash with Nell's. Since Connor hasn't had much experience celebrating Christmas, Nell hopes that if she can give him a crash course in Christmas during the town's 12-day festival, that he might just change his mind about modernizing the Majestic. And here we are, Hallmark Channel Christmas movies. And we are actually starting off with a bit of a break from formula. Usually the female lead in these things, at least as I'm led to understand it by reading about them on Tumblr, usually she's the one excited about her promotion or possible promotion and only returns to their hometown grudgingly and ends up having to be, depending on the script, either convinced or outright gaslit into staying. So certainly an interesting starting point for the season. Let's see if it's an interesting movie. Spoiler alert, no it isn't. We open on our lead, Nell, going to work and being politely chastised by her boss for having too many Christmas decorations on her desk, and, maybe the tiny tree on top of the desk lamp might be a bit much, especially since it looks like it could fall off if you looked at it too hard, but the rest of it seems fairly subdued compared to the kinds of decorations I've seen at places I've worked. It's not really much more than the other desks in the office either when we get a better look at them in a future scene. I get the feeling the movie does not want us to like this guy. We fairly quickly get to the first meeting of our future couple when Connor, although the movie hasn't given us his name yet, accuses Nell of stealing from a charity till that is not Salvation Army but probably only for copyright reasons, as opposed to the better reason that Salvation Army sucks, when she's only trying to retrieve her bracelet that fell in as she was giving a donation. This is a pretty bog-standard meat misunderstanding, the annoying cousin of meat cute. The tension lasts about a second and a half when the bell-ringing Santa by the till recognizes her and reaches in himself to get the bracelet, leaving Connor looking embarrassed. After this, Nell gets the assignment from her boss about the community theater in her hometown, mentioned in the plot summary, and, the new owner wanting to turn into a multiplex, yada yada. I'm getting a little worried here. This is only about 5 minutes into an hour and 20-minute movie, which means there's going to be that much more time on the will they won't they romance between Nell and Connor, and I don't know if I can handle that. especially since an update to the program that plays DVDs on this computer, it made it a little less user-friendly for me to find the 1.5 speed option that was pretty much a godsend during Season 7. This season was a mistake, wasn't it? Nell and Connor have an awkward second meeting in the boss's office that goes pretty much exactly as you'd expect. We jump immediately to Briar Falls, our idyllic upper-middle-class town for this movie. Nell meets her parents, who are already aware of why she's in town. At least we were spared that awkwardness. Points on that movie. Less than 10 minutes in is too soon to be having tension with the parents, especially in a movie that is supposed to be anti-cynicism. The stuff with the parents is harmless, but not particularly engaging. I'm relieved that Mom and Dad here seem to be decent people who don't need their daughter to do what they want 100% of the time to love and support her. Something we could use more of in real life, that's for sure. But it's possible for characters to be nice without being boring. Nell goes to visit her friend Hannah's antique shop. There's a thing with an employee there who, in a worse but more interesting movie, would probably be a romantic rival with Connor for Nell's affections. And I'd forgotten I'd written this bit that way so that it would be funnier when I got to the random thoughts section and I revealed that this guy was actually Hannah's husband. But now that I'm reading this part for the recording, that just completely ruins this whole paragraph. Let's just move on. We get to meet a lot of local townsfolk during this segment of the movie, from when Nell returns home to when she meets Connor again. And nobody is happy about the playhouse being set to close forever after Christmas, but nobody seems to be blaming Nell for it directly, which I can say I didn't expect. There's some degree of passive-aggressiveness here, but I get the vibe that for the most part the town has kind of already given up on the building. Meaning that the task of having to convince Connor to not tear it down is going to be on Nell alone for the bulk of the movie. So basically it's like every presidential election for the last 20 years. White people just expecting black women to save everybody while doing only the bare minimum themselves. More boring rom-com shit with Connor, and jeebus, these two have so little chemistry, I can just tell it's going to be underwhelming as shit when they finally kiss. That's still a ways off, of course, as Connor is still in meh about Christmas mode. He doesn't outright hate it, which is a bit atypical for this kind of movie, again, as I'm understanding from only reading about them on Tumblr. But I'm fine with that, as it means we're that much less likely to get some tragic backstory stuff that'll bring down the mood. Nell and Hannah go to decorate Connor's house, and it goes as well as you can expect since the movie's not even half over yet. And at this point in watching it, I had not yet figured out how to get 1.5 speed back, which really sucked because the movie is such a slog. It's not that nothing of note is happening. This isn't like Dragon World from last season, but what is happening is just so boilerplate that this movie could have easily been titled Generic Christmas Rom-Com number 4815. This may be my first Hallmark Channel Christmas movie, but it's not my first Christmas movie. Nothing that has happened so far has been a surprise, really. It's happened earlier in the runtime than I expected, or was quieter than I expected, but that's really it. Of course, as soon as I say that, we get a scene the next morning where we learn about a pipe burst at the Majestic itself. So now Nell and her family and everyone else will try to find a way to put on their pageant despite the damage. That's something, at least. I guess I can give the movie that much. Oh, no, wait, okay, now that I think about it, yeah, something going wrong with the building the protagonist is trying to save. Yeah, I should have seen that coming a mile away. And to make it worse, pretty much all the costumes and props and a good chunk of the sets were ruined by the burst. That's a bit much. I get that there needs to be an obstacle to be overcome for the third act to have any weight, but that much damage? Later, not even 10 minutes in terms of screen time, we learn the floor repairs at the Majestic are finished ahead of schedule, and Connor, while still planning to have it all rebuilt after Christmas is over, offers to help salvage the pageant. So now it's just a race against the clock to get the whole thing rebuilt in just 11 days. I mean, it's a given they will. This is a Hallmark Channel movie. But the movie will act like it's a possibility they'll fail. More cutesy shit happens. You know how these things go if you've ever watched a rom-com set during Christmas that wasn't an R-rated attempt at subverting the genre. And let's be honest here, most of those suck too. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, that was more, I think that was PG-13 instead of R, but yeah, that's really the only one of those types of movies to age even remotely well. And honestly, as I get older, I realize it's also probably the only good movie in the Vacation series, period, but that's beside the point. What's bugging me here at this point in the movie is that it's not at the halfway mark yet, but a good chunk of the things you'd expect to happen have already happened or are in the process of happening. So what are they going to pad the rest of the time with? I think Nell and Connor are a bit too far along on the inevitable romance path to have a huge falling out. Wait, correction. Too far along to have a falling out that doesn't feel forced and insults the audience. We get some character stuff with Connor that's not bad on its own, but the actor doesn't really sell it for me. Clearly, he has some unresolved issues with his aunt, whose death led him to inheriting the playhouse he wants to turn into a multiplex. I can't say I'm super invested, but it is better than forced drama, so I won't complain. Okay, I won't complain a lot. And now that, between 56 and 57 minutes in, we have our first kiss between the two leads, any drama that comes between them would feel even more forced. So I'm kind of steeling myself for it. Nell basically puts in her 2-week notice at the architect firm she worked at. Connor chips in with the pageant, which I think I already mentioned earlier, but whatever. Connor learns about Nell leaving the firm and is upset because he mistakenly thinks she was leaving the whole project as opposed to staying on just long enough to see it completed, which means we have our drama just close enough to the end of the movie to be fucking stupid. The pageant happens, they reconcile after Nell talks to her mom, and Connor talks to the cafe owner. Connor decides to go with Nell's renovation plan for the Majestic instead of the multiplex, yada yada, let's just wrap this up. Pun not originally intended. I'm going to have that happen to me a lot this season, aren't I? Random thoughts I had while watching the movie. Once again, Google Images was not my friend for this episode. This is becoming more and more common, actually. I like the actress who plays Nell. She's got charm. I wonder if she's been in anything good. I will say I appreciate that Connor wasn't completely one-dimensional. Makes his inevitable turn towards preserving the playhouse more realistic. The only legit laugh I got out of this movie was the blinking Save the Pageant shirt that a character named Barry wore at a toy drive in the movie. It really only works in context, though. You've seen it at least once during this portion of the episode. I couldn't not screen cap that. Yeah, hey, call back to earlier where I totally fucked up a whole paragraph of the script. If this movie hadn't told me Nell's friend Hannah and the guy who also works in the antique store were married, I wouldn't have picked up on it until the movie was 2/3 over. There was a running gag where Nell would enter Connor in all these town tradition contests and he'd keep winning. I almost forgot to mention it, that's how much of an impact it made on me. The movie actually ends with everyone in the theater cheering when Nell and Connor kiss on stage. This movie just suddenly turned into a fake Tumblr story in the last 2 minutes. Final verdict. Despite having more people of color in the cast than the whole of Season 7, this was still one of the whitest movies I've had to watch for this show, and I'm not referring to Snow. To an extent, I appreciate that the makers of this film cast non-white actors for the leads just 'cause, without having the whole story be about that. That's not a bad thing on its own, despite what my more heavily bearded, indoor voice-lacking colleagues here on YouTube will tell you, characters don't need a reason to not be white. They can just be not white. I just wish that that wasn't the only thing this movie had going for it. Have all these characters be white and the story is, if not exactly the same, then close enough. I didn't suffer while watching this. This isn't a Paul Matthews movie, but at least if I had, it would mean I had a reaction. There was a whole love story, and a fight to save a historic building, and winter. 3 things I like, to varying degrees. But for the most part, I just didn't care here. The movie was better than I feared it would be, but that was a really low bar to clear. Anyway, tune in next time for Christmas by the Book. Have fun. Stay safe.